is left uncovered. I'm thinking about four-leaf clovers. I've got composure. Silver coin, you hold me, turn me over right now. But expect to
Make yourself ready.
watch as the breeze burns gold and smoke that is stolen. Feels like it's no fortune that you're falling. I'm swimming with the sharks. I'm swimming with the sharks. I can't tell you apart from them. You can't tell either. Will we love or falling deeper? Tell me, darling, what is it you want? How the mind doesn't work like it used to. As I know I remain a danger to me, to you. Going altered by the moment, dear. And as the days turn idle, sweet on survival, I'm on fire, waiting your arrival. I never expect to be centered.
Once it shows, we're gonna start. Hey, it's about to show. Hold on. Not the inception. Come on, baby. Oh man, yes sir. Hold on. Wait for it to catch up. It's about to. Come on.
I'm swimming with the sharks.
Come on. Oh man, why is it doing it? Come on.
It's out in my
Yo, why is it? Hold on, come on, work for me. It's Inception on Inception. Let's go. It's lit. Oh, it's lit. All right, y'all. Oh, I see you, bro. Yes, we in the Infinity Wars right now. So boom. I didn't mean to do that, but I wanted to show. So, you know. All right. So shout out to How Money Works YouTube channel. They have a great video. It's not vast, but it is 14 minutes of a great depiction of something that I was looking to share, as far as how the stock market is the living embodiment of the love of money, and which to me is the root of all evil. Their incessant need for more and more, not just for profit. Like, you could be profitable and, you know, a stock and not end up on the stock market, because the point of the stock market is to acquire as much money as possible, you know what I'm saying, and be presented in a light that can just increasingly get more and more money from people and generate more money from your customer base. Now, let's just get into it. Here we go.
Shareholder value have caused business decisions made in the interest of maximizing shareholder value have caused mass layoffs, environmental catastrophes, an endless list of corporate frauds, and record inequality in the workplace. The very same CEO who made millions of dollars by being the first champion of maximizing shareholder value in the 60s called it the dumbest idea in the world, and something that could rot capitalism to its core. But worst of all, maximizing shareholder value isn't even good for the shareholders.
Indeed, managers, the CEO, they have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders to be concerned only with the bottom line. We think this is wrong, a serious mistake.
But continue to create the capacity to be able to
I didn't know we could do that.
as we have done it.
Boom. Snap, it's not out here. Wow, dang. Let me know. It ain't on there. Y'all ain't seeing nothing. I forgot. That's not your fault. That's my fault. I'm just playing. Alright, boom. Let's get that right here. Alright, I'm at my regular setup now. So, boom. Now, not only is incentivizing stock profits not beneficial for the investor long term, it's not beneficial for the company. You look at corporations now, they don't have the ability to build within the United States. That should be a problem for the people of the United States. If anything were to happen and we were to be at war, we don't have the infrastructure to be able to arm ourselves. Well, we do. We got Lockheed and all those different people. But, beyond that, what will we be able to fabricate in America? We don't really, like, toys and stuff like that. All that stuff is out of China. You know what I'm saying? We don't have woodsmen and stuff like that are able to do things with their hands. That stuff has been all automated and shipped out to China. It cripples the country. It cripples, the execs have all the money and are able to, they're multinationals. They're bouncing from country to country, whatever suits them the best, Or they're making their own islands like Mark Zuckerberg. Got a whole bunker of an island.
2023, and as we hope to continue to do in 2024.
Roundtable today sparking a debate about the purpose of a corporation and why maximizing shareholder returns is no longer the main goal.
If you hate your job, here is a history lesson for you that might make it start to make sense. In 1916, the Ford Motor Company had revolutionized the automobile industry with the Ford Model T. Henry Ford, the founder and majority stockholder of the company, wanted to use the surplus cash they had accumulated to build additional plants and hire even more workers to build even more cars. Ford had also famously and controversially raised factory worker wages significantly and offered benefits like the 40-hour work week. In press interviews, Ford spoke about his plans for the company. "My ambition is to employ still more men, to spread the benefits of the industrial system to the greatest possible number, to help them build up their lives and their homes. To do this, we are putting the greatest share of our profits back into the business." This angered minority shareholders in the company that
Now, think about what a minority shareholder is. They may be a part of the executive board, they have the stocks too. But oftentimes, especially when it comes to the realities of today, they're not the people that work for the company. The people working for the company can't afford to invest in the stock market. These are already rich people who are looking to make more money so that to increase their nest egg, right? And they're not working. Like, America is supposed to be the place where you come, you work, and you're able to make a living to where you could own a home and sustain your family. That dream is like, that's what I'm saying. Like, policies and structures that were implemented in the 60s are now starting to meet the reality of what comes with this type of structure. You know what I'm saying? Where we're going to constantly be bailing out the uber rich so that they can maintain their profitability in the stock market. Whether it be subsidies, whether it be tax loopholes, whether it be funding politicians who are going to now, take the business insight that they oversee in whatever committee to now implement laws to, increase the likelihood of said company that's now being traded on the stock market to, do whatever,
just wanted him to lower wages again, raise the price of the Model T, and keep paying them a regular dividend. Since Ford was the majority shareholder in the company though, their options were limited. So they took him to court. But the court sided with the minority shareholders. Ford was forced to consider the best interests of shareholders above his other business ambitions. This was the case that set the precedent for shareholder primacy in America, meaning the board of directors and executives in a company must always try to maximize shareholder value to the best of their ability.
Now, this is why I say working for a corporation that is on the stock exchange is the modern day slavery. You are working to the bone, spending 10, 12-hour days, so that someone who is not participating in any way of the productivity of this company, so that they can reap the majority of the benefits. You can't tell me a paycheck that you work for. Part of me feels like it's so stupid that we even have to like break it down like this. They're paying into the profit share, the ability to share the profits of said company without having to do with anything of the success or the day-to-day, and they're reaping the benefit of the majority of the benefit, while the people who are in there day-to-day, you know how often I pick people up who are closing down stores. You know, they have keys to the place that they work, a corporate, you know, whatever. They have the keys to close the store down, but they're getting dropped off at a motel because they can't afford to pay for actual housing. And living in a hotel in a nicer area is safer than living in the hood. You know what I'm saying? And it's not even like a nice area. It's just nicer. Yeah. Whatever.
Some have mistaken this ruling to mean that CEOs and the boards that appoint them have a legal mandate to maximize shareholder value. But the reality is that this simply isn't true. The case was awarded in favor of the minority shareholders, but it upheld the business judgment rule, which means that executives can do what they believe is in the best interest of the company.
Which is so vague, they can do, not shall. You know what I'm saying? So it's up to them whether or not whatever they do said thing, right? And then
if it doesn't make the number on a stock chart go up. Ford himself wasn't paying his workers more and making new jobs because he wanted to be nice. He was a ruthless businessman who wanted to control a larger share of the growing automobile market. By paying his workers better and offering them higher wages, he was just denying his competitors a workforce. And by pricing his Model Ts just above,
which to a degree is something that shouldn't be frowned upon, right? If he has the ability to buy the best workforce, and he uses that ability, those funds to, you know, kind of stifle the growth of other people, that's, you know, charge it to the game, in my opinion. Now that's my opinion right now. Whether I grow out of it is something to be seen. But like I'm saying, this is so like it. One could say that's monopolistic. Yeah, but you know, it's better than what's happening right now, where corporations, year to year, they just fire a whole bunch of their sales force, right? And then they're not sales force, their workforce, while making record profits. He was trying to make it to where it was mutually beneficial to work for a gig corporation. Right now, it's not.
above cost, he made it almost impossible for any other manufacturer to sell a profitable budget automobile. The biggest irony of all of this is the minority shareholders that took Ford to court were John and Horace Dodge. They owned about 10% of the company and used their special dividends to fund growth of their own company, Dodge, a car maker that would eventually become one of Ford Motors' biggest rivals. So this court ruling was bad for the company's leaders, bad for workers, bad for the country, and bad for the shareholders in Ford who sacrificed market dominance for a quick payday. But there are 3 reasons why people still believe in maximizing shareholder value, and 3 reasons why companies—
And you think about it, look how Dodge and Ford are doing right now. The newest car, the what is it, Challenger, the EV, version of the Charger and Challenger merge. It's not well received by the public. I can't afford to buy it, so I can't necessarily say it. I ain't gonna lie. What I have heard from people's review of it wouldn't sway me. If I could afford it, I probably would go ahead and get it, because I'm looking for an EV, and I wouldn't want it to be a coupe though. I would want the 4-door, because I don't know. I'm being a big dude. Them coupe doors be big. You know what I'm saying? So I might be wrong. I am saying I would buy it if I could, but it's not for me because they ain't priced it right. You know what I'm saying? No, that ain't it. And Ford don't know if they want to. I mean, recall King, and you know their union is always upset. Well, it's with all of them really. So they don't have the same relationship they had with their employees years ago as they do now. People love working for Ford. It was, same with, you'll see later on.
To operate this way, they are almost guaranteed to fail. So it's time to learn how money works to find out how the worst idea in business history became the new normal for corporate America. This week's lesson is sponsored by Delete Me. Did you know that your personal data is sold data? When data brokers sell your data away from a variety of data brokers, and the product sold on lords find it needed, and when you out.
I'm not rocking with a lot of this AI stuff, but AI on Wix, now that's a vibe. It's a conversation, so your work.
Corporate America didn't always have the dangerous obsession with shareholder value that it does today, and even the landmark Dodge versus Ford case in 1919, companies were slow to change. Between the mid-1960s and 1970s, American stock markets traded mostly sideways. Corporate CEOs still had a duty to do what was best for the company, but they were paid a normal salary and a small bonus just like every other normal employee. According to the Economic Policy Institute and the National Bureau of Labor Statistics, CEOs at this time made around 20 times as much as the average employee of their company. So they were still rich, but not so rich that they could retire after one good year. Their motivation was primarily to keep the company running safely so they could maintain their well-paid jobs for as long as possible. By the 1990s, a small group of financiers got the idea that in order to grow to get better returns from their companies, they should align the interests of their CEO with their own interests of getting the stock price as high as possible. They did this by paying the CEOs a smaller cash salary, but added stock options that directly tied CEO bonuses to stock performance.
Money laundering. You're going to pay them in this invisible money that potentially can go up as long as you make the right decisions. When the pay structure for an exec is based off of a stock option, their only concern will be the stock option, not necessarily the company. And they'll play with that money in the stock market because they know when you're cleaning money, there's always a haircut. And that's why these CEOs don't stay long. The longest they'll be there, 3 to 7 years. They're out of there, man. And they're going to another corporation. You saw how Chipotle's CEO went over to, where is he? I don't know where he is. I don't care. Hate it.
In the 1990s, CEO compensation went from 60 times average worker pay to 380 times average worker pay. My friend Patrick Boyle did a great video on how this small change in corporate norms eventually led to people like Elon Musk demanding $50 billion in compensation for 1 year's work. Now that there was so much money,
$50 billion! This man! That's crazy. I wonder what company he was demanding that from. Would that be SpaceX? Because a lot of that money will be either money coming in from investments or government subsidy. You know what I'm saying? Or government contracts. Where, Obama basically took out the arm of NASA that created and produced rockets, said, hey, let's give it to this South African, this white African, you know, because those people have a great track history. But NASA also was initiated with the Nazis. We went and snuck a whole bunch of them from over there, brought them over here, and said, make us a bomb. You know? So, who cares? There's no... That's crazy. I just thought about that.
Money to be made, CEOs and other senior executives were happy to go along with the lie that it was their legal duty to maximize shareholder value, even if it would destroy their companies in the long term. The first strategy they used was picking up pennies in front of a steamroller. It won't surprise you that some of the biggest companies in the world have taken dumb risks. We have seen some of the biggest corporate bankruptcies in history happen in just the past 24 months, and it's becoming more common. If you are a CEO with a multi-million-dollar bonus package on the table, you are going to do everything in your power to tick the boxes you need for the board to grant you that bonus. A top priority for you as the CEO is going to be to increase your company stock price, pay a big dividend, or both. Most bonuses are awarded year to year, and according to Fortune magazine, the average tenure of a Fortune 500 CEO is now only 7 years. For you, big projects that could pay off over decades are effectively useless, unless their announcement could drive up your stock price. But even that's unlikely. Investors rarely care about long-term business strategies because they so rarely come true anyway. Your best strategy is an easy place to cut expenses is in areas like security, auditing, risk management, safety controls, long-term development, and training. If you cut these enough, you might even increase revenue at the same time, because sales staff and revenue centers can operate more freely without pesky compliance departments making sure things aren't being done illegally. Silicon Valley Bank, one of the largest bank failures in American history, had a risk management department that regulators described as terror making from subprime mortgage bonds. Boeing's repeated string of airline failures has been blamed on a push to get new planes into the air by cutting down on safety controls and testing. HSBC, one of the biggest banks in the world, made billions of dollars in revenue by providing financial services to international criminals. People have lost their jobs, lost savings, and lost their lives in these scandals. But worse than all of that, the shareholders lost billions of dollars from scandals like these and others that are too numerous to list. But the CEOs that ultimately oversaw the companies making these terrible risk trade-offs already made their enormous bonuses, and some of them even got a golden parachute on the way out. Business departments like risk management
and none of them went to jail.
And cybersecurity have tough jobs. If everything is going well, people question what good they are doing for the business.
Beat the tax debt.
What he's talking about is literally the equivalent of like corporations choosing not to purchase PPE after the pandemic, right? Because they didn't necessarily. They didn't necessarily see the benefit of it. We have a reason not to after this, because of COVID, and we can just continue the process of not having PPE, because why would we? Hospitals need the gloves and the hairnets. Why are we buying up these resources that they need? You know, and then they see how much money they save on not having to have gloves, not having to have hairnets. And why would we implement that rule after saving, you know, saving those expenses? It's yeah.
They're doing for the business. You can make a little money by picking up pennies in front of a steamroller, but if something goes wrong, you get smushed all for a few dollars. The short-sighted nature of CEOs mandated to maximize shareholder value is also the second reason it's one of the worst ideas in the history of business. It guarantees that businesses become worse. Jack Welch was the chairman and CEO of General Electric from 1981 to 2001. He worked his way up in the company from an entry-level position, but upon stepping into the top job, he radically reshaped the company in the name of the shareholders. Welch made 72,000 of GE's 400,000 employees redundant. He sold off entire company divisions, and he invested heavily in financial and media arms of the business. GE Capital became the primary focus of an engineering company that made consumer appliances, commercial machinery, and aerospace parts. Welch also pioneered outsourcing and bragged about it on CNBC, a news network he created to focus on business news after GE acquired NBC. His ruthless strategy worked, and during his 20 years as CEO, GE's stock price rose from $6 a share to a high of almost $370 a share a year before being asked to walk away from the company. He did, but not before being awarded an exit package estimated at $417 million.
$417 million. That is crazy. Just to lead a company after, like, quality of our products has changed. Our market share has changed because we've diluted things so that there's nothing that distinguishes us from these other corporations that are coming from out of the United States. Samsung is owned by Japan, I believe. Yeah, the Samsung family is out of Japan. That, like, what?
Other CEOs who were now getting paid mainly with stock options saw this maverick CEO talking about his strategies on his own news network, and they figured they couldn't argue with the results. According to data from the Economic Policy Institute, the year that Jack Welch took over as the CEO of General Electric was the last year when increases in worker productivity kept pace with increases in wages.
Let's find out what productivity and pay. Explain to me what the productivity pay gap is.
Essentially, it highlights that productivity measures how much output a worker produces per hour. Compensation includes wages and benefits received by workers. Historically, in the mid-20th century, productivity and compensation tended to rise in tandem. However, in recent decades, particularly since the late 1970s, productivity has increased significantly faster than worker pay. This discrepancy is the productivity pay gap. Here's a breakdown of the key aspects. The divergence. Workers are producing more goods and services per hour. However, their wages and benefits have not kept pace with this increased output. Factors contributing to the gap: weakening of worker bargaining power. Factors like declining union membership.
Now, Trump just undercut all federal employees' ability to bargain for better pay, bargain period with their employers. Republicans often tout the fact that unions exist as like a way to prevent capitalism. Without the workers that are in that union, there is no capitalism. You wouldn't be able to do whatever. Let's finish this real quick.
Increased income inequality, a larger share of economic gains going to top earners, globalization and technological change, which can put downward pressure on wages, changes in corporate priorities, with a greater focus on...
Alright.
Make of that what you would. Welch's focus on shareholder above every other stakeholder in the business worked well for a long time. But since he was pushed out of the company, the stock price of GE has fallen by roughly 70% from its all-time high, even during a record bull run where the market is up by 400%. GE used to make high-quality products that customers were highly loyal to. GE's outsourcing delivered worse products to the market, leading customers to buy from other brands. GE used to be one of the most attractive companies to work for because they were stable, paid well, and let employees, like Jack Welch himself, work their way up the corporate ladder. GE's CEO proudly boasting about mass layoffs and firing the bottom 10% of staff every year meant it became one of the least desirable companies to work for, so top talent went elsewhere.
Now, I used to live in upstate New York. GM had a huge campus. Well, they used to. Not as big as anymore because whatever. And you can see how at one point in time in that city is Schenectady, it was a thriving, industrious I don't know if it's a city or a village or a town, but it was at one point in time. It was something that is no longer, and you can see, you can smell it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna say it's like a Detroit. I don't think it was as high as a Detroit.
There. By sacrificing customers and employees to appease shareholders, they made it worse for them too. Welch himself even said in an interview that maximizing shareholder value was stupid. A high stock price is the result of doing everything else correctly. Why didn't he follow his own advice? Well, because he made too much money by keeping the people that paid him happy. During Welch's tenure as CEO, GE was almost suspiciously good at meeting financial goals. Roger Martin, the dean of the Rotman School of Business at the University of Toronto, said in an interview with Forbes that GE met or beat analyst forecasts in 46 of 48 quarters between December 31st, 1989 and September 30th, 2001, a 96% hit rate. Even more impressive, in 41 of those 46 quarters, GE hit the analyst forecasts to the exact penny, 89% perfection.
How that even work? How that even work, man? How that even work, man? That don't even sound right.
Of course, this wasn't amazing management. It was good old-fashioned creative accounting, a practice that got GE in hot water with the SEC and was part of the reason why Welch was eventually asked to nicely leave the company. Despite his tarnished record, Welch's business practices are still common in a lot of corporate boardrooms across the world. Okay, so you might ask, if encouraging CEOs to pursue short-term gains has shown to be bad for everyone, including the shareholders who appoint the board, who employ the CEO, why are companies still doing this? Well, that's because the third reason why maximizing shareholder value is a terrible idea for everyone. The short term is all that matters. According to data from the largest stock exchanges in America, the average holding period for stocks has been consistently declining for decades. In 1975, investors held onto stocks for an average of 5 years. In 2021, they held onto them for less than 1 year. Electronic brokerages have made buying and selling shares much easier. And people are generally in financial situations that are much less secure, where selling shares becomes a way to cover an unexpected expense. That's not how long-term investing should be done, but staying ahead financially these days is hard. The largest dips in shareholder holding periods happened in 2001 and 2008, during down markets and job losses where people were probably selling at a loss on their holdings but needed to cover their expenses one way or another. Long-term capital gains tax laws also encourage people to seek profits from buying and selling year to year rather than a dividend strategy, which can be less tax efficient. The result is that if people are holding onto shares for less time, then they also only care about short-term wins. So a CEO that delivers a profitable fourth quarter will be more popular than a CEO who reinvests company earnings into training, R&D, or safety that won't pay off for years. This kind of short-term thinking is not sustainable, but that's another shareholder and CEO's problem. But this isn't the only way. I am going to write an op-ed on business and leadership teams that I have worked with in the real world that are doing things a little bit differently to great success on my total...
Alright. So that is a depiction of how corporate structures and how... Alright. How the stock market can manipulate workers' lives, all for corporate profit of stockholders who have nothing to do with the actual goings-on of the companies, and oftentimes it is to dilute workers' ability to make make money, crippling their lives at this point. Like, everything is just so expensive because of corporate greed. And now the stock market is crashing, and these folks are angry at Trump. Like, I don't like Trump after this either still, but, I don't think people who benefit from somebody else's labor without having anything to do with said labor process should be, not in the way that how corporations are able to deplete people, cities of resources, and all in the name of capitalism they'll. The video I'm about to show now, and I'm gonna swap screens so that this one can get the premiere that it needs. This is, so GE is a appliance manufacturer, right? And they're on the stock market. So you saw how they manipulated their stock of employees to, they'll fire them however frequently at the end of the year to maintain its stock profitability, along with their aggressive accounting, right? So that was part of the reason why. Another example of corporate greed is in our healthcare system. Now, I'm not going to explain too much. I may give more clarity later on. Hold on, let me see if I can see something. Alright, no, it's not there anymore. So, I'm going to just let her explain who she is and what. We'll see. Let's go.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Linda Pino, and although the witness list does not reflect this, I am a physician. I'm a former medical director and medical reviewer. I did the job that was referred to repeatedly in the first panel as a physician manager for 3 healthcare organizations. I currently, though, primarily work in medical and healthcare ethics. I am here primarily today to make a public confession. In the spring of 1987, as a physician, I denied a man a necessary operation that would have saved his life and thus caused his death. No person and no group has held me accountable for this, because in fact what I did was I saved a company $500,000 for this. And furthermore, this particular act secured my reputation as a good medical director, and it ensured my continued advancement in the healthcare field. I went from making a few $100s a week as a medical reviewer to an escalating 6-figure income as a physician executive. In all my work, I had one primary duty, and that was to use my medical expertise for the financial benefit of the organization for which I worked. And according to the managed care industry, and I think we've heard intimations of that today, and we've seen this in at least 2 cases, it is not an ethical issue to sacrifice a human being for a savings, no matter how that savings occurs. And I was told repeatedly that I was not denying care, I was simply denying payment. I am not an ethicist whose primary background has come from the books. For me, my ethical issues were born in the trenches and fed by the pain that I have come to realize that I caused. And if I am an expert here today, it's because I know how managed care maims and kills patients. So I'm here to tell you about the dirty work of managed care. And this is the kind of straight talk that I wish Ms. Ignani could hear now. And let me explain to you the ways that I was a good medical director. I was regularly consulted by marketing on ways to change expensive benefits or change the language to give me loopholes to make denials when requests came. For example, in one plan, we were able to structure our investigational language exclusion so that I was often able to use it to deny just almost anything that was expensive and particularly out-of-network requests.
Recognize what she's talking about. This is when you, as a person who pays into a insurance policy monthly, the one time or whenever you go to use it, they paid someone like her hundreds of thousands of dollars to find loopholes to get out of not denying you the service, because insurers don't provide service. They're doing things, or they're denying the payment for whatever procedure you're looking to use. This is why it's important to understand the difference between Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security than what is the private options and the reality that comes with allowing your money pool, basically, because that's what insurance is, to be managed by people who have a profit incentive, not as, one of their goals, but as the main goal for them to exist. The fact that they're on United Healthcare, is United Blue Cross, whatever, all the other different healthcare providers or insurers, that is the reason why they're on the stock market. It's not because they try to make sure that folks stay alive. The main point of being on the stock market is to maximize profit, to gain, people's interest and inflate the stock of said company, and then to use that money. You're gonna pay your executive boards, whether it be in said stock that are now crazily valuable or in actual bonuses and whatever. And, from that point on, you want to deny, what did they say? Delay, deny, depose, or something like that. I don't know. But basically, it's insurance. I even remember growing up, my mom was like, yeah, I'm not using my insurance for that. And then when I got older, I went to use it, right? Now, I got car insurance. Let's say I pay just under $300 a month, and I have comprehensive and collision, with a $500 deductible anytime that I use my insurance. Or is it $500 anytime I use it, or whatever? I ended up getting my window smashed out, right? And I called my insurance to see what it would be for me to get my windows replaced via my insurance. And basically they told me, I think they said it was $500 per window. I don't know what it was. It was, yeah, like the number, no. For both windows, it would have been like, I would have had to pay $500 because that's my deductible. And I went and sourced it myself. Wait, I wonder, because I think SafeLight was talking about it being $500 a window, right? And then I found another smaller company. They had somewhere basically came out to $500 altogether, or just under $500 for me to get both my windows replaced. And I'm like, yo, what? I'm paying all this money just for when I need to use this junk. It's just as expensive to get the actual service than it is for me to do it through my insurance. Or it was cheaper. It was cheaper for me to do it without involving my insurance at all. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Boo, bad. Boo, boo, boo. This is horrible. So I ended up, and then what's crazy is, so I went and had my whatever done. I got my windows replaced, but the dude that replaced my windows, he didn't clean out the glass right. So ended up going to the dealership and having he didn't clean out the glass out of my door correctly. So the mechanism that makes the window go up and down ended up breaking, and I had to, one, wait for them to get the part back in to replace it. Two, I thought it was so I had to wait for it to get the part to come in. Then they later told me because it wasn't manufacturer defect, it was them leaving the glass in the door. I found out I was gonna have to pay for that myself. I was so sick. So yeah, that's how they operate. They are not here to provide a service. You can't put a profit incentive on something that is supposed to be a utility. The fact that water is on the stock market, the fact that electricity is on the stock market, the fact that housing literally is on the stock market, these are things we need. This is civilization. You can't, it's literally illegal to sleep outside in certain cities. So you're gonna force me? It's just like forcing someone to go to school, but not making it law that the school has to actually educate folks. You're just putting those kids in jail, and you're funding to where CEOs making pretty comparable money to teachers. I don't know that for sure. Let me stop, but let's keep going.
Pre-existing exclusions into a game, and as I tried to connect almost any prior medical complaint or visit as a reason to deny payment. There are many more things that I could tell you about, but ultimately, I was only as good, and I put that in quotation marks, as the doctors in my network, for it was their numbers that I needed to prove that I was doing my job. That meant that I did whatever it took to control them. Intimidation, hassling, humiliation, I have done it all. I have used inadequate and inaccurate data to create reports to get doctors to make their numbers better. In other words, decrease their usage. I have used economic credentialing to select the best inexpensive physicians and rarely correlated these with quality factors. I have helped design contract provisions to ensure our payment and monitoring schemes got the results we wanted at the plan. And I have threatened deselection to numerous physicians who were especially difficult or costly. However,
what does that mean? They pick and choose who they pay, whether based off of who is using as little as insurance as humanly possible. Why is that wrong? Because it stifles the pool of potential good doctors. Why? Because doctors, at the end of the day, they went to school for all these years to have this degree. Now they need to pay because they got these loans that they have to pay off. So if you could potentially be, moved out of network because you're costing the insurance company too many dollars because you're saying that these your patients need these expensive surgeries, then that's what the result would be. Is that Jim Jordan? Dirtbag. I don't know if that is.
There is one last activity that I think deserves a special place on this list, and this is what I call the smart bomb of cost containment, and that's medical necessities denials. Let me take you to the heart of managed care. Even if a plan denies all the other things that I could list, it is impossible for them to deny their use of this practice because it's vital to managed care. That's making medical decisions about access, availability, and use. And even when medical criteria is used, it's rarely developed in any kind of standard traditional clinical processes. It's rarely standardized across the field. The criteria is rarely available for prior review by the physicians or the members of the plan. And so even if a plan has a clear benefit package and has all the perks like free eye exams or free screening tests for cancer, other marketing ploys, the member's physician will never be the final authority on what his or her patient will get. And this might go unnoticed for simple needs like a regular office visit or a bout of the flu. But I can tell you that when something unexpected or expensive happens, it's like a bucolic pasture-turned battlefield. The landmines will start exploding everywhere. And somewhere in every coverage booklet for every managed care plan is a claim that establishes the plan as the final authority for making determination of medical necessity. And what this means is that there is some physician at some plan doing what I did. That person rarely is continuing a clinical practice. They're sitting behind a desk making decisions about a patient they will never see or touch, completely removed from the consequences of their decisions. They're getting paid by someone to make decisions for the benefit of the plan and not for the benefit of the members. I'd like to conclude by saying, what kind of system have we created when a physician can receive a lucrative income for adding to the suffering of patients? I became a physician to care for, not bring harm to my patients. And I'm haunted by the thousands of pieces of paper in which I have written that deadly word, denied. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ms. Fraser.
Of the committee.
So that's just a tidbit. I'm going to do more of a deep dive because I really want to drive this point. The stock market is the ultimate evil. It's you're gambling your money if you're trying to invest and become rich, like these mammoths. You know, it's not an uphill battle. Isn't even an accurate depiction. It's literally scaling up a skyscraper that has been greased with what's something that Don couldn't get up, like they used Don on a BP oil spill, so I don't want to use that. It's like something that's been greased by Crisco. Like, it'll firm up if there's no heat, but as soon as you make heat with it, it's just gonna start sliding right back down. As soon as you get some momentum, you're gonna slide right down. It's not it, but again, that's just today. I'm gonna end this on that note. I'm gonna try to. This is the earliest I've ever done one, so we're getting better. Other than that, I mean, I ain't got nothing to say. Let the music play. Let the.
My best friend to 23. She left her body in Harvard about me. I saw no shadow.
She died.
Searched every building and home that I found. I saw no shadow, but felt the glow. Warmth inside me kept me afloat.
That's all right. Y'all good. Y'all have a good night, man.